Imagine giving 22 years of your life to a company. No major accidents under your watch, hundreds of employees going home safe because of the systems you built. And one morning, they hand you a cardboard box and tell you you're done. That's what happened to Kenny Harmon. But here's the part they didn't see coming. Kenny wasn't walking away quietly. No, he was about to make the company regret ever crossing him. If you've ever been underestimated, disrespected, or tossed aside after years of loyalty, hit that like button right now. Subscribe for more true revenge stories, because today's tale isn't just about losing a job, it's about turning betrayal into one of the most satisfying acts of justice you'll ever hear. Kenny Harmon was 59 years old, lead foreman at Western Plains Manufacturing in Tulsa, Oklahoma. For 22 years, he'd kept the factory floor running like a heartbeat. The place made industrial valves and pressure equipment stuff where one mistake could mean disaster at an oil refinery. Every shift, every day, Kenny kept the people and the machines safe. And what was his reward? Seat in a bland conference room, across from Patricia in HR and Leonard Wright, the new director of operations. Leonard, a guy with smooth hands, starched shirts, and zero real-world experience. For months in the company and already swinging the axe, Patricia's voice was as flat as the beige walls. The company is streamlining supervisory positions. Leonard chimed in with his MBA buzzwords: market pressures, restructuring, efficiency. Then came the folder. Severance terms, half pension, 2 weeks to train his replacement. Kenny stared at the wood grain on the table, and his stomach twisted. 2 decades of spotless safety records. Hundreds of workers who went home whole because of his vigilance, and now he was supposed to hand everything over to a kid with shiny shoes and a business degree. When he got home that night, he called his old buddy Frank, who'd retired just the year before. "They're letting me go," Kenny said. Frank didn't hesitate. "Bastards. You going to raise hell?" Kenny's voice was steady. "No, but they'll realize soon enough. Some knowledge doesn't transfer in 2 weeks. See?" Kenny knew every machine by its sound, every creak of steel, every hum of hydraulics. He could tell when a press was struggling before any sensor caught it. He could smell when fluid was degrading. And he knew deep down that Jason Weber, the shiny new replacement, never understand that kind of instinct. Jason showed up in pressed slacks and a tie, full of excitement and corporate optimism. "I've reviewed the metrics," he told Kenny, shaking his hand. "Lots of opportunities for efficiency." Kenny just handed him a pair of steel-toed boots. Lortor first, metrics later. For 2 weeks, Kenny poured his knowledge out, training Jason. But he noticed something troubling. Jason never asked about the people: Diego, whose son was in the Marines; Alicia, who needed extra break time for her diabetes; or the quirks of old machines that only revealed themselves to those who listened. Jason saw numbers, not humans; efficiency, not lives. And then Kenny overheard it, the conversation that lit the fuse. Jason talking to Leonard in the break room. "Once we implement the new shift schedule, we can consolidate maintenance staff. And that extra safety redundancy on the hydraulic press. Totally unnecessary." Leonard smiled, pleased. Exactly the perspective we need. Kenny felt something cold coil in his chest. They weren't just letting him go. They were dismantling the safeguards that kept people alive. On his last day, Kenny handed Jason the keys. "Any advice?" Jason asked, eyes still glued to his tablet. "Listen to the floor," Kenny said. "The machines talk if you pay attention." Jason smiled politely. He didn't get it. Kenny walked out with his boots heavy on the tile, his heart heavier. Still, No party. No cake. Just a badge that deactivated as soon as he drove out. But Kenny wasn't done. It's not by a long shot. Weeks passed. The calls started coming. Diego whispering into the phone. They're cutting maintenance inspections in. Half Sam reporting denied orders for replacement parts. Russell talking about near misses that Jason was writing off as operator error. Kenny kept records of everything. And then came the first real injury. Alicia's nephew, just 19, lost 2 fingers when a press guard failed. Management called it operator error and shoved papers under his nose while he was still groggy on pain. Meds. That was it. Kenny's fury finally overflowed. He pulled together his most trusted allies. In a dimly lit living room, he laid out the evidence Russell had smuggled to him. Falsified maintenance logs. Internal emails about cost-cutting, even chilling words from corporate brass insurance covers accidents. Missed earnings cost us investors. Weren't making mistakes. They were gambling with human lives. Kenny launched a 3-pronged strike. First, he met with a contact at Meridian Energy Solutions, Western Plains' biggest client, and showed him photos of defective valves already shipped. Second, he took a mountain of documented violations to the state safety board. And third, he confronted Jason face to face, not with anger, but with a choice. Stay silent and be the fall guy, or document the truth and save your conscience. Jason cracked. The kid wasn't cruel, just in over his head. He agreed to help, and then fate handed Kenny the final weapon. The plant's main hydraulic press failed catastrophically. Production halted. Orders piled up. Leonard panicked, called Kenny at dawn. "We need you. 300 an hour. No questions." Kenny almost laughed. He thought this was about money. He walked back into the plant, not as an employee, but as a ghost come to collect. His conditions, his own team, full authority, and access to all records. Desperate, Leonard agreed. As Kenny diagnosed the wreck of a press, he dropped the hammer. "I've already sent a report," he told Leonard. "To corporate. To the safety board. To Meridian. Every violation, every denial, every cover-up." The color drained from Leonard's face. "You can't do that." Kenny's voice was calm. "I already did." Within days, the dominoes fell. The safety board stormed in. Meridian suspended contracts. Axiom. Partners sent their own investigators. Leonard was yanked out of Tulsa, tail between his legs. Jason was stripped of authority but spared as a scapegoat. And Kenny? He was offered a shiny new title, Director of Manufacturing Operations, with a fat salary. He turned it down flat. "Safety isn't a budget line," he told them. "I'll consult on my terms. 3 days a week, my rate." In full control of safety and maintenance, they agreed. They had no choice. The next Monday, Kenny walked the floor again. Machines hummed smoother. Workers nodded at him with quiet respect. He wasn't back for the paycheck. He was back for the people. Back to rebuild what greedy suits had tried to destroy. And deep down, Kenny knew. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's as steady as a heartbeat, as quiet as a machine finally running right again. They fired him with a cardboard box. He came back with evidence, allies, and the power to bring the company to its knees. The payoff wasn't just Leonard's. Humiliation or corporate scrambling to clean up the mess. The real revenge was Kenny walking that floor again, not as a discarded old man, but as the one irreplaceable soul the company couldn't afford to lose. When companies treat people like disposable parts, they forget the one truth Kenny proved: knowledge. Loyalty and integrity can't be replaced by a spreadsheet. And when you gamble with people's lives for profit, karma will always come collecting. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button. And tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying act of revenge you've ever seen? Sure you're subscribed, because we've got even more incredible stories of justice coming your way.